Let's start with something most people don't want to hear. If you're always busy but nothing in your life is actually changing, you're not productive, you're just trapped in motion. And motion without direction doesn't take you anywhere. It just makes you tired faster. And the dangerous part is this feels responsible, it feels mature, it even feels successful. But it slowly kills momentum without you noticing. Stay with me, because once you understand this, being busy will never feel the same again.
Being busy feels good for a reason. Your brain loves activity because activity gives immediate feedback. You do something, you check it off, you feel useful. Emails answered, messages replied to, tasks completed, meetings attended. Your day feels full, so your mind assumes it was productive. But fullness is not progress, it's just occupation. You can fill an entire day and still end up exactly where you started. No leverage gained, no skill compounded, no long-term direction improved, just effort spent. Busy days feel honest because they're exhausting, and exhaustion tricks you into believing something meaningful must have happened. But effort alone doesn't guarantee movement forward, it only guarantees energy loss.
Busy work is safe. It doesn't ask difficult questions, it doesn't risk failure, it doesn't challenge your identity or force you to decide what actually matters. Real progress does. Real progress requires choosing one thing and ignoring 10 others. And that feels uncomfortable because ignoring things feels irresponsible even when it's necessary. So instead of deciding, most people stay busy. They keep moving so they don't have to stop and think. And the more complex life becomes, the easier it is to stay occupied without ever being effective.
Here's a distinction that changes everything once you see it. Movement is activity, direction is intention. Movement is answering messages, direction is deciding what deserves your attention. Movement is working all day, direction is working on the right thing. You can move fast in the wrong direction and feel productive while slowly drifting further from where you want to be. Busy people optimize speed. Effective people optimize direction. One ends the day exhausted and slightly anxious. The other ends the day calm and slightly ahead.
This part is uncomfortable but important. Being busy is often procrastination disguised as responsibility. You avoid the difficult task by doing easier ones. You avoid the risky decision by staying productive. You avoid focus by staying available. And because you're doing useful things, you don't feel guilty about it. Procrastination isn't always scrolling or watching shows. Sometimes it looks like emails, meetings, and constant activity. That's why it's so dangerous. It doesn't feel like avoidance. It feels like discipline. Focus removes excuses. When you focus, results become visible, and visibility creates pressure. If you work on one meaningful thing long enough, you eventually have to face whether it's working or not, and that uncertainty is uncomfortable. Distraction protects you from that moment. Busy schedules keep outcomes blurry. Most people don't avoid hard work, they avoid clarity. Busy people ask, "What should I do next?" Effective people ask, "What actually moves the needle?" Busy people add tasks. Effective people remove friction. Every unnecessary commitment taxes your energy. Every low-impact task steals attention from something better. And most people underestimate how expensive small distractions become over time. Being available feels polite and professional. It also destroys deep thinking. Every interruption resets your focus. Every notification fragments attention, and fragmented attention can't build anything meaningful. High performers don't protect their time because they're selfish. They protect it because they understand momentum is fragile. You don't need to respond faster. You need fewer things demanding responses. Burnout doesn't come from working hard. It comes from working hard on things that don't matter. When effort isn't connected to progress, fatigue feels pointless, and pointless fatigue drains motivation faster than difficulty ever could. Busy people escape to recover.
Effective people stop intentionally. There's a difference. I'll focus later sounds reasonable. It sounds responsible. It sounds like a plan. But later is one of the most expensive words people use. Later quietly becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And next year becomes I don't know how I ended up here. The problem isn't laziness, it's postponing clarity. Most people don't avoid effort, they avoid choosing, because choosing closes doors, and staying busy keeps every door technically open, even if none of them are leading anywhere. Busy feels flexible, focus feels final. So people delay focus and convince themselves they're being patient, when in reality, they're just avoiding commitment. Ever notice how busy years disappear faster than quiet ones? That's because busyness fills time without anchoring memory. When days blur together, your brain compresses them. Focused work does the opposite. It creates landmarks. That's why some people feel like years passed in a blink, while others feel like they lived 10 years in 5. Busy steals not just progress, but perception of time itself. And realizing that usually comes too late. Real progress doesn't feel urgent. That's why it's ignored. It feels repetitive, it feels slow, it feels almost boring compared to constant stimulation. But boring is where compounding lives. Progress looks like staying with the same problem long enough that most people would quit out of discomfort. It looks like improving something slightly every day instead of chasing dramatic breakthroughs. Busy people chase urgency because urgency feels important. Effective people build leverage because leverage works even when motivation disappears. Doing less sounds easy until you try it. It means disappointing people. It means saying no without explaining. It means being okay with missing things. Most people stay busy because busyness protects them from that discomfort. But every unnecessary task drains attention from the few things that actually matter. Doing less isn't passive, it's active restraint. And restraint is one of the rarest skills today. Clarity removes ambiguity, and ambiguity is comforting. When things are unclear, you can always say, "I'm still figuring it out." When things are clear, results become measurable. Clarity creates exposure. That's why people unconsciously avoid it. They stay busy to stay vague, but vague effort never builds anything meaningful. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up randomly and leaves without warning. Structure stays. When your environment, schedule, and priorities are designed properly, action becomes automatic. You stop relying on emotion and start relying on systems. Busy people depend on motivation to survive their workload. Effective people design their days so motivation becomes optional. That's the difference between effort and sustainability. Reaction feels productive because it's urgent. Design feels slow because it's intentional. But reaction keeps you inside other people's priorities. Design builds your own trajectory. If your day is mostly reactions, messages, requests, and interruptions, then your future is being shaped by default, and default futures rarely look intentional. Most people don't notice this problem when they're busy. They notice it when they stop. On vacation, on weekends, late at night. That's when the question shows up quietly. What am I actually building? And if that question feels uncomfortable, it's usually because the answer is unclear. Trying harder works for a while. Aiming better works long term. More effort without direction just accelerates burnout. Better direction reduces the need for constant effort. The goal isn't to slow down. The goal is to stop wasting momentum. The shift is subtle. You stop filling time and start protecting it. You stop measuring days by how busy they felt and start measuring them by what actually moved. This doesn't feel dramatic. It feels calm. And calm progress compounds faster than frantic effort ever will. Being busy isn't the enemy. Being busy without direction is. The moment you stop confusing activity with progress, everything starts to change. Not instantly, but permanently.
And once you experience focused momentum, going back to constant busyness feels exhausting instead of impressive.
If this shifted how you think about your time, subscribe. This channel isn't about doing more. It's about doing what actually works. And if there's a habit, mindset, or pattern you want broken down next, leave it in the comments, because effort matters, but direction decides everything.